Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, November 19th, 2023. And welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 92, Combat. I'm your host, TJ, and today I am dolo, holding it down. Everybody else has scheduling conflicts, but we should be back together soon. With that said, what will I be covering today? I'm just going to cover the event that took place as of this recording last night, which was Saturday the 18th. I'm talking, of course, about UFC Fight Night, Brendan Allen versus Paul Craig. Of course, this took place in the Las Vegas not T-Mobile, but the UFC Apex Arena. What do we have on this card? To open it up at the main card, at least on welterweight, we had Medic versus Orobai. Then at women's strawweight, we had Pinedo versus Ribas. At bantamweight, we had Talbot versus Aguirre. Then at welterweight, we have Morales versus Matthews. And of course, for our main... Wait, did I miss one? I did miss one. At lightweight, we had Hooper versus Levitt. Then at welterweight, we had Morales versus Matthews for the co-main. And of course, the main event at middleweight, we had Allen versus Craig. Let me get right into it, y'all. I'm going to just give you my thoughts, right? Forget the fighter data. I'm going to just give you all my thoughts. Like, starting with Medic versus Orobai, right? Listen, this was at welterweight, and Orobai, there we go. I was like, I was like rolling my R's for no reason, but everybody's going to be like, is he having a stroke? No, Orobai took this fight last minute. He's a repping Team Alpha Male. He had Uriah Faber in his corner. But he took this fight last minute, and he wants to make his next appearance more so at lightweight 155. Let me tell you something. For last minute, he did really fucking well because this fight did not go beyond 2 rounds. It was wrestling, right? It looked like Medic had the right strategy, even though he was expecting another opponent originally. It looked like he had the right strategy, doing a good job of managing the distance initially, but then Orobai took his ass down 5 times in round 1. We had like mat return after mat return. Dumbass amount of ground control time, right? Needless to say, round 2 was not any better. Ultimately, Orobai gets the back off of Medic and gets a tap off of what I learned from Joe Lozon like a few years ago via Elias Cepeda, shout out Foundation Jiu-Jitsu. This was a face ripper choke. We saw Khabib tap McGregor out in very similar fashion. Like, very good performance for Orobai, and let's see what he has to show us at lightweight. Moving on. We had this women's strawweight matchup in Pinedo versus Ribas, whose story goes these ladies used to be teammates, right? Former teammates meeting each other in the ring, so they might have some reads on each other already. Now, if you just looked at the first round, you would have been like, oh, not Ribas, but Pinedo has this in the bag. But I think Amanda Ribas came into this fight with a chip on her fucking shoulder. She lost that fight to Macy Barber, and she said, I'm not losing again, and that's on Roundtree Jr. Here's the thing. Her and Pinedo, like I said, used to be teammates, and Pinedo had some crazy moments in that first round. She was throwing everything, including the kitchen sink. Like, she was literally trying to damage Ribas, and to be fair, she may have wobbled her and stunned her a few times, but, and, you know, along with that, it looked like she had knocked Ribas' credit score loose, right? But then she started gassing out and come to find out in that second round and third round, it was the Ribas show. She started eliminating, shutting down Pinedo's side-to-side movement, which may have also, been shut down too. They were getting gassed out. But ultimately, this ended with a spink and a spoinkle, right? A right hand that spelled the beginning of the end for Pinedo. But Ribas is back in that win column. Very good showing for her, right? Let me switch over to Talbot versus Aguirre. Aguirre, right? Aguirre. This was at bantamweight. Now, we should have known what time it was with Talbot just off of that solar plexus and mid back tattoo. If you got bleach, arrancar, hollow energy, like we already knew what time it was, bro. He's channeling his inner Grimjaw, bro. Like, listen. Round 1, the Aguirre show, right? For the most part, tackled and grappled. He tackled and grappled Talbot, but Talbot played a super smart distance management. Or I should say, Talbot showed some pretty good grappling defense. He had been put in these situations before, especially during the Contender Series. But listen, round 2 and 3, Talbot was like, I'm going to need you to feel every piece of these hands I'm about to throw your way, dog. Feel these kicks. Feel these hands. And he fucking just crumples Aguirre in round 3, takes his back and finishes him with a rear naked choke. The second one of the night. You guys starting to sense the theme? You will soon. Then we bounce over to Hooper versus Levitt. This was at lightweight. Look, Jordan Levitt, last time I saw Jordan Levitt, I feel like it's when he lost. Was it his loss to Paddy Pimblett? Anyway, every time I see Jordan Levitt, I just think about how whoever cut his hair for that UK card, like, just did him incredibly dirty. So, low-key, I was hoping for, Jordan Levitt to get into the win column. Hold on, y'all. I'm putting up his fighter data right now. Yeah. So last time I saw him, he lost to Pimblett, but then he fought against Martinez back in February, and he was able to get that win by knockout. So, he was coming off of a win, probably having some good momentum going his way. But look, when him and Chase the Dream, excellent nickname by the way, faced off, it was an instant grappling match. These fellas entered into the flow state. And to be frank, spoiler alert, Hooper won this. I'm surprised he didn't get a performance of the night bonus. He out-grappled Levitt in what was essentially a 3-minute roll in jiu-jitsu. What's insane to me was the amount of submissions being threatened and thrown back and forth, right? We saw omoplatas, arm bars, a footlock fucking shootout, which you don't see often in MMA like that. Usually you'll see somebody get the ankle, try to crank on it, the other person escapes, but you rarely see shootouts. Like, this was grappler versus grappler. And ultimately, it was from defending one of Levitt's heel hook attempts that Hooper was effectively to leave a foot behind as the first hook to what became a solid back take, I should say, and a deeper naked choke. Are y'all starting to sense a theme here? Now, let's move on to the co-main, Morales versus Matthews. This was at welterweight. Did Morales even get tired? Spoiler alert, he won. This was an impressive win for him because he dominated through and through, and because Australian fighters usually have those fucking hands. Morales is explosive, flying knees, super punches, Superman punches, feints, speed. He's got the whole package, right? The whole fight was him baiting Matthews into exchanges and him beating Matthews to the punch. And this isn't to say that Matthews wasn't in the fight. He had his moments too, but Morales' reach 100% made a difference. It feels like damn near the first 2 rounds ended with Morales just teeing off on Matthews right before the bell went off, right? There was that one exchange in the beginning of round 2 where it looked like he was close to finishing Matthews off early on in the round, but he hung in there. So Matthews was game through and through. But look, keep your eyes on Morales when it comes to welterweight, because he's definitely going to be rising up in those rankings. The unanimous decision was correct, and that jab, man, I think he can do it from both sides too. He was kind of stand switching quite a bit. Lastly, main event, Allen versus Craig, middleweight. This was Craig's second showing at middleweight, and he had everything to gain by winning this fight, a chance to crack into the top 10. That was not in the cards tonight. Brendan Allen just stuck to his game plan, which is kind of crazy. Think about it though, right? The game plan was effectively to shut down Craig's jiu-jitsu and just be on top. But even saying that sounds insane, because Paul Craig is known as being extremely good on his back. His bottom game is insane. He literally broke Jamal Hill's arm off of his back, which is ironic because Jamal Hill and Joe Pyfer were in Allen's corner that night. I digress a little bit, though. The reason why this is so crazy is because Allen kept taking Craig down and dominating from the top position, but he was neutralizing Craig's bottom game, right? And Craig was doing his thing with that half guard lockdown, preventing Allen from being able to truly bounce and really tee off. But he immediately ripped open a cut on the side, I should say on the right side of Craig's face, right? Guess what happened though? Round 3, Allen takes his back. Another rear naked choke. This was honestly a crazy card. Only one fight on the main card went the distance, and even then it was still a very entertaining fight. Overall, I'd say this card kind of delivered. It wasn't like last week's UFC 295, which was like the fastest main card of all time, I feel like, but it was pretty insane. As far as what we can expect from the UFC next week, we get a bye week. It's going to be a holiday weekend, so there will be no MMA fights. I don't think there's any boxing, but if that changes, of course, we'll post it up on the gram. But worst case scenario, we just don't have a combat episode next week. Y'all will take a break for the holiday. But speaking of which, if you are celebrating the holiday, if you aren't, hope y'all have a great time. But this brings us to the conclusion of our 92nd combat episode. Once again, this has been the Now Mind You podcast. I am TJ. Where can you find this podcast? Listen, you can find it on any podcast distribution platform. Just look for the Now Mind You podcast, right? You can find us on YouTube, same thing. If you're looking for the podcast on any type of social media, whether it be Threads, Instagram, Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, right? Just look up at Now Mind You Pod. That's NOWMINDYOUPOD if you want that direct handle. Now, if you're trying to search for us, just look up the Now Mind You podcast. Where can you find me? You can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS4_SKATE. Y'all can find Matt on damn near everything at Matt Hambrick. That's MATTHAMBRIC. And if you're looking for Bryce, you can find him on Instagram as well at Ashe Onta. That's AXE_ONCA. Baby. Thank you all so much for the support. Have a wonderful holiday, whether you celebrate or if you don't celebrate. I hope you have a wonderful day off or days off, y'all. It's a pleasure. And of course, if you can spread the word, it'll be greatly appreciated, y'all. Peace.